I would like to call the September 20th, 2023 regular meeting to order. It is 5:30 p.m. There is a quorum present. Notice of this meeting has been posted in a time and manner required by law. Mr. Jones, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Cliff Williams. Present. Scott Carson.
Present.
Charles Perry.
Present.
Kyle Hegemeyer.
Present.
Ms. Paulette Traylor.
Present.
Ms. Nikita Lagway.
Present.
My name is Chad Jones. Thank you.
The board will now hear comments from the audience only during the public comment portion of the meeting. The public comment portion of the meeting will be no longer than 30 minutes total. Each speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to address the board. Groups of 5 or more people that wish to express the same viewpoint on an issue must appoint a representative to speak for the group or will then have 3 minutes to present. Please respect the privacy of others and refrain from identifying students, employees, and other community members by name. I will determine whether the speaker has attempted to solve a matter administratively through resolution channels established by policy. If not, the speaker will be referred to the appropriate policy to seek resolution. Disruption of this meeting will not be tolerated at any time. Per board policy, the board does not respond to public comments. Our first speaker tonight is Diane Hibner.
What are you thinking? I would like to direct your attention to agenda item XI. Discuss and consider approval of adding additional personnel. I would hope that you are talking about instructional personnel, not administrative. If we are going to follow the business model, when times are tough, the production personnel, which are our teachers, must be considered as essential, while the executive personnel, administrators, are expendable. We are not in a position to expand the executive bureaucracy. In fact, we should be diminishing it. Now, let's turn our attention to agenda item X, E, and F regarding Solution Tree funding in excess of $50,000. It was my understanding that Solution Tree was a thing of the past. We are continually throwing monies at a program that has no solution. Just ask the marketing representatives that recently provided the board with their song and dance. They could not answer questions posed by some members of We the People group. They are just selling a product without really knowing the application of their product in our setting. We are asking the teachers to spend hours on data input so that our administrators can have material to create charts and graphs to please you, the board, and the state bureaucracy. Give the teachers this time to prepare for classroom instruction. The solution to our district's educational performance is not by pouring money onto the branches of the tree of Solution Tree, but by providing our teachers with preparation time, additional salaries, a curriculum, and a positive work environment whereby they believe that the administration and community have their backs. Lastly, I wish to address the Willis ISD board members' policy regarding vacancies and removal from office. BBC Legal-P, date issued 6/7/2021, update 117, page 3. Topic, reasons for removal. A board member may be removed from office for, item 3, intoxication on or off duty caused by drinking an alcoholic beverage. This is supported by the Texas Constitution, Article 5, Section 24, Local Government Code 87.001.012, Item 14.013 and .031. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hibner. Our next speaker is Robin Sproba.
Mr. President, Board, Mr. Superintendent, I'm here today to speak on behalf of Cliff Williams, who has served this district for 15 years, many of those as board president during my tenure on the board. As many of you know, Cliff has been in the local news and in social media for a DWI arrest last week. Some are calling for him to resign his position on the board. To be clear, in no way do I condone driving while under the influence. If Cliff is found guilty of this charge, he should publicly apologize to his constituents and accept the punishment handed down by our court system. Period. No excuses. However, just as I encouraged Cliff to attend the meeting tonight and take the chips and let them come as they may, take his lumps if necessary, I'm imploring Cliff not to resign, but instead to serve out his term and continue to give his best to the district. During the 12 years I served on this board with Cliff, I never once personally witnessed him make a decision or cast a vote that wasn't in the best interest of Willis kids, all Willis kids. Yes, this is a personal mistake possibly, and an error in judgment on his part, but that mistake does not negate his entire good body of work, nor should it wipe out 15 years of community service, not to mention the service of his mom, his sister, a long-standing family giving to the Willis community. Perhaps we can use this as a teaching moment to show our kids how to give grace to others, how the justice system works, and how adults learn and grow from their mistakes. Because who among us isn't human, and to err is human. Thank you, and board, I appreciate your time and your service. I know how difficult it is sometimes to sit here and listen to what can be negative public comments and criticism, and I appreciate you very much. Keep fighting a good fight.
Thank you, Ms. Sproba. Our next speaker is Sunday
Point
Shibley.
of order, there should be no response to these comments.
No response was given.
There was a
Okay.
clap. That is a response.
Thank you, Ms. Sproba. Our next speaker is Sunday Shibley.
October 19th, 2022, I filed for reconsideration of a book in our Willis ISD libraries, citing concerns about its appropriateness for minors. I explained that the book contained explicit content, including pornography, excessive profanity, sexual activities, nudity, alcohol, and drug abuse, and alternative sexuality. Subsequently, on March 2nd, 2023, a Level 1 hearing was held to discuss the removal of this book from our library. My request was denied by the Reconsideration Committee, who concluded that the book should remain in the library at the high school level. They justified their decision by highlighting the book's positive aspects, such as its portrayal of an alternative reality where social media serves a beneficial purpose, political parties cooperate for the common good, and characters undergo journeys of self-discovery. Furthermore, the committee pointed out that the book resonated with LGBTQ+ students, sending a powerful message that it's acceptable to be oneself and love whomever one chooses, even if their parents are influential figures. They argued that the book's realistic depiction of youth and relationships would help students navigate their own experiences and find comfort in its relatability. The committee and school officials have chosen to retain it in our library. I also did a Level 2 hearing and also was told the book met standards for Willis ISD libraries. It's particularly perplexing when we consider the same content, when adapted into a movie, receives a R rating and is restricted for those under 17. Why then are we allowing our students to access to material that society deems inappropriate for their age group? The issue extends beyond a single book. It's about the larger question of what is deemed suitable for our students. Our school officials must reevaluate their stance and materials that contain explicit and pornographic content. We owe it to our students to provide an environment that is safe, educational, and aligned with community values. As someone who has regrettably both read the book and watched the movie, I can attest that the book is much more graphic. Our Reconsideration Committee, school board, and all relevant authorities need to reconsider their decisions and prioritize the well-being of our students, creating an educational environment while respecting community standards. Can you stop letting pornography be in Willis ISD schools? Due to damage, not due to explicit materials, after being told very clearly that this book, which is only of many deemed suitable for Willis ISD's libraries, only due to damage is why it is removed from the library. Not because it's explicit, and like I said, our society has deemed it rated R. You can go on Amazon Prime, as you can see in the papers I gave you. You can go on Netflix, you can look online, anywhere. This movie's rated R. That means 17+. I also gave you the definition of what rated R is. So why are these books allowed to be in our schools? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shibley. Our next speaker is Michael Arrington.
Good evening. For the next 3 minutes, this room is my classroom. Welcome. Welcome to my science class. I am here to teach you science, and you are here to learn, and you are in luck because I am not just any science teacher. I'm very good at what I do. I've won awards for what I do. In fact, I am so good at what I do that I don't even have to spend the entire class period talking about science. So I'm going to go one step further. We're going to talk about some other things. We'll talk about gender. I will teach you how, if you're a man, you have the right to demand anything of your wife, and she must comply no matter what. We will talk about God as I see God. And I will espouse my views on everything from eugenics, yes, eugenics, to recent Supreme Court cases. Don't worry, trust me, I'm an expert. I'm also quite the comic. You are going to love my impression of disabled kids. Comedy gold. And ladies, if you happen to catch my eye, I just might have to touch those legs of yours to see whether they are as smooth as they look. Do not ask questions. My time is valuable. Do not question why I discuss these things in a science class. If you do, I am not above resorting to ad hominem attacks. I will reserve the right to make false assumptions about you and to attempt to embarrass you in front of your classmates. After all, isn't that what education is all about? Now, aren't you glad you signed up for this class? You're not? Why not? Don't answer, I'm only pretending to care. In a way, this has been a satirical take on one teacher. That is disturbing enough. At the same time, however, this satire speaks to the experiences of several students with several teachers at #Willis High School. So many teachers and so many students, in fact, that some are inclined to wonder whether the school has sacrificed the goal of education for the tactics of intimidation and indoctrination. I have been asked not to disclose names tonight, and I have chosen not to disclose names. But if startling behaviors such as these continue, well, my schedule is open for the evening of our next meeting. Class dismissed.
Thank you, Mr. Arrington. Our next speaker is Pete Passkey.
Thank you. Thank you, board. I ain't touching no one's legs tonight. I'm here to speak on Cliff Williams' behalf in regards to what's been going on in regards to the DWI. Just a little bit about Cliff. I came to know Cliff about 8 years ago. Crossed it, where I met Robin. Thank you for your service too. I miss your thing. And we became friends over that period of time. Our kids, we moved to Willis, our kids started going here, we got involved with the school board, and we became friends with a lot of school board members. We became friends with the superintendent, we became friends with a lot of people around here. Mr. Jones, my neighbor, my old neighbor. I watched Cliff, and I admired Cliff from afar because not only did he raise his 2 kids with his wife Julie at the time, he also brought in another kid in his life. And he saw this kid through high school, and he saw this kid through college. And he just poured his life into that. And I just sat back and I was like, wow, that's amazing. I know, Mr. Jones, you do the same thing with kids in your life. And if that doesn't tell you something about what he means to this system in Willis ISD, then we're lost here. Okay? Julie and him split up. We all do sometimes. I've been married 20 years after my first wife. He got married again, brought in another kid that he raises like his own. And I see that because our kids cheer together, they go to places together, and his family is together all the time. His ex-wife, his wife, they're together. They hang out, they get along. And that's what it's all about. So he brings that to the table when he sits up here at this board. And he fights for the kids of this system in Willis ISD for the years he's been doing it. We don't do anything together, we don't hunt, we don't fish together, we talk, that's about it. You know? But he's a good guy. We need to let this thing play out. Let it play out. Because it's gonna get good. It's gonna get real good. And like Robin said, I don't condone drinking and driving, not for it, but we do have due process in America. Montgomery County is 90%, 99% Republican. We have a president right now that everybody go pull the lever for that's been indicted for felonies. Nobody wants his head. I mean, doesn't make sense. Let Cliff stay, do your job, and it's all gonna play out. You'll see. When I approach, I'm gonna leave you with this. Y'all can pass this around. This will just tell you exactly what's going on. We know the hatred for this man, and we know.
Time has expired.
Thank you, Mr. Passkey.
One last thing.
Time has expired.
Cliff,
Time's expired.
we know the story about the elf, Buddy the Elf. Nobody believed him. Nobody believed him, and look what happened.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Passkey. Our next speaker is Robert Holden.
Thank you. There's so many comments, I've got to make one personal comment. I've known Cliff for many years and we're not friends. But I don't believe he has an alcohol problem. I do believe there's a problem in his world and in his life as we all go through. And I hope he gets counseling for it and his life becomes happier. You have this before you, so I'm going to go off script because you already have my script. And what I'm saying is close to my heart for our children's benefit. We now have the election infection being announced again, and many have jabber's remorse. I suggest strongly that you advise all the parents that there's a means by which they can avoid getting vaccination for their children. We know from actual studies that every child that was vaccinated lost part of their immune system and are less protected against many other illnesses. We know for a fact that those who were vaccinated now are a threat to the rest of us because they actually exhale that modified spike protein, which destroys the immune system of everyone it gets into. There is a counteraction for it, and I would ask that everything I say, you verify, do your own homework, do your own research. You can see from the picture, the CDC says the N95 mask will not protect or will allow smoke molecules to go through. And they're 1,000 times bigger than the COVID virus. So how does that N95 mask protect you against the COVID virus? Protect our children. You know that no one under 18 worldwide, with the possible exception of one, and it's arguable, died of COVID. But many died after getting the COVID vaccination. Please protect our children. Let the parents know there is, and it's cited in here, where they can go for the state guidance to exempt their child from a vaccination. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Our next speaker is Tommy Gaskins.
First, I'd like to thank all of you for your service, your commitment to Willis and their children, the board, superintendent. For those that don't know me, I'm Tommy Gaskins. I'm a lifelong Willis resident with 2 children in Willis schools. I've known Cliff for most of my life. We've agreed on many items. We have disagreed on many more. At the end of every one of those, though, we were able to shake hands and walk away still as friends. I know many people that had the same result. Which brings me to what happened to lifting people up when they're down, encouraging others when they make mistakes, and wanting people to succeed, especially when those people succeeding helps your children succeed. I speak for 100% of the voters, not just Cliff's voters. Every voter that voted for you, they didn't vote for anybody that was perfect. They knew when they cast that vote that you were going to make mistakes. Because I, like people here, like his opponents, we all made mistakes. We're not perfect. We're not talking about, thank God, we're not talking about an accident. We're not talking about having children in the truck. We're not talking about driving recklessly. We're not talking about doing things that I've done and been arrested for. We're talking about one lapse in judgment that was taken advantage of by a political opponent. Someone that actively and loudly has outspoken in their disdain for Cliff personally. We know who called as a public document that you were just given by Mr. Passkey. And I'm here today to say that 15 years of giving back to the community, a young man that graduated with honors, that went away, graduated at A&M, and came home to the community where his mother and sister served. And as a young man who did way more than I ever did, and I'm prideful, so it's not easy for me to say that, but he did way more than I ever did. Before he had kids, he signed up and did the same thing that you're doing. Sitting up there, listening to stuff that comes out of here, and listening to all the gripes, and never getting any of the cheer for no money. The fact that people go so crazy over a job that is so thankless is beyond me. But that's why I thank you so much. And I want you to know there are a lot of people that want to thank you. And they may not know how to approach you. They may not know how to do it. This was... we're talking about this disgruntled ex-friend who showed nothing but the ability to not move on. And what I hope, for the children's sake, for the future of Willis's sake, we all as a community decide to build up, encourage, and move on. As our interim superintendent said in a recently well-accepted memo, there is no old Willis and new Willis. We're all just Willis. We're one team with one purpose, and that's something that Cliff has always believed and exemplified. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gaskins. At this time, we will move to item number 3, standing information, Superintendent Search Firm presentation from Into Learning.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Eddie Colson. This is Brad Lancaster. We're with the firm Into Learning. Obviously, we're pleased to be here tonight and to visit with you a little bit about the services that we provide related to the superintendent search that you are about to go through. Dr. Lancaster and I both live in College Station, and our former superintendents in the state, being College Station ISD, Dr. Lancaster, in a couple of places, Midway ISD and Lake Travis ISD. As we think about the superintendent search, know that Into Learning does a lot of things across the state in terms of leadership development, in terms of bond consulting, in terms of working with principals, executive staff, and so forth. And one of the things that we have spent and invested a lot of time in recently, or really over the course of the past 5 years, is executive searches. The executive searches that we have done include these that you can see, plus many more prior to 2022, from large school districts like Dallas ISD and Holden ISD in their search for a CFO, to Midway ISD Superintendent Search and the College Station ISD Superintendent Search as well. So over the course of the past several years, we have done a variety of searches, and I think we're well positioned to help Willis with its superintendent search as well. The searches that we complete, that Into Learning completes, it is both Brad and I who would be working on that face to face with you. The process that we like to use obviously relies heavily on you and your input through the process. One of the things that we would do initially, very early on, is to meet with you, listen closely to you in terms of the district's strengths and opportunities, and then determine how the board wants to solicit input from the community and staff. There's a lot of ways that we can do that, and certainly Dr. Lancaster and I are very open to how the board would like to proceed with that as well. As a superintendent search process is obviously a public one, it's important that the board keep the public informed to the extent possible as well related to that search. And Dr. Lancaster and I are certainly well prepared to do that. In the search process for superintendent, because it is public, people know what's going on. We want to make sure that the board provides an opportunity for the public to give feedback. And sometimes that is structured, and sometimes it's unstructured, sometimes it's online surveys, sometimes it is face-to-face meetings with people. But we would want to sit down with you and really talk through that about what would be the best way to do that for the Willis community. Based on the feedback that we get from you, obviously, and the community, we would want to build a profile of the person that you are looking for. As you think about the next 3, 5, 10 years in Willis ISD, who is the candidate that will best serve the students and staff and community of Willis ISD? Based on the feedback you give us and others give us, we really believe we can build a profile and then go recruit people who meet that profile who would serve this community really well for the years to come. As part of the process, because it's a public process, we work with the district in any way we can in terms of communications to develop a marketing plan that describes Willis ISD in a manner that would draw people in to the search. One of the truths about superintendent searches is it requires a lot of personal connections. And Dr. Lancaster and I, because of the work that we've done across the state, have a variety of connections and people know us. The marketing material also helps us describe to people what the position would be like in Willis. So one of the things that Brad and I do, we are very active in the search process. We have a variety of personal contacts through our years of service, and we began reaching out almost immediately once it's determined if it's determined that we can help the Willis School District. The personal connections that we have, I think, are really one of the strengths that we have in terms of getting a wide variety of candidates to the table for you to consider. There are places that we can post the position nationally and locally and statewide, and then there are all sorts of people across the state that we can consult with as we think about how we can best get good candidates to you for your consideration. As we get candidates, one of our jobs is to vet them, to review the materials and credentials that are submitted to us, conduct phone interviews or face-to-face interviews or Zoom interviews with selected candidates, evaluate those candidates based on the rubric of the candidate profile that we will create, and then provide the board with the credentials of all candidates as you desire. One of the things that we do is we create a summary of all of those candidates and the distinguishing characteristics of those folks that we can share with you, and then based on the number of candidates the board wants to interview, we work with you to recommend who those candidates might be. Obviously, it's the board's decision as to who you interview. We want to provide as much input and helpful information to you as you work through that process. We come to meetings as desired by you, to sit down with you, talk through the candidates that you have, to work with you, and so one of our commitments is to come alongside you on a regular basis based on the needs that you have, especially as we get to the point of reviewing candidates. And then we'll facilitate the board through a process to develop interview questions that are specific to Willis and the questions that you want to ask, and then a final interview process that will work well for you. And then we help the board facilitate through the process to select candidates to interview, and then to schedule those interviews, and then to make sure that the candidate has all the important information about the position as they enter the interview process. Process can be different depending on what the board initially decides. Oftentimes the board will do a first round of interview and then invite another couple of those candidates back before they choose a lone finalist. But ultimately, you will choose a lone finalist for the position. The board president communicates generally with the lone finalist, and then the details related to that are worked out in terms of the board meeting date, and the district communications department begins to work with local media related to naming that person. As you know, there's a 21-day waiting period for which the district is able to get feedback on the candidate that is selected, and then after that 21-day feedback, assuming the board continues to move forward, officially name the lone finalist as the superintendent and a contract is signed. Dr. Lancaster and I would be, our commitment to you as a board is to be with you every step of the way, from the initial meeting that we have with you, to the input that we get from you, the input that we get from the community along the way, to developing a candidate profile, to getting candidates to consider the position, and then to selecting candidates to interview. It would be our obligation and our desire to be with you every step of the way along those lines. I'll let Dr. Lancaster talk a little bit about some of the timelines.
When Mr. Hogemeyer was talking briefly last week about this presentation, he asked me to bring forward 2 potential timelines. And these are just suggestions. These can be modified and altered in any way. It's your search. This decision and timeline of the process is completely up to you. But I've got 2 options just to show you how all those steps that Dr. Colson just reviewed would flow forward in a timeline. If you were to start this relatively quickly, September, early October, we would have those planning sessions. We would post for that opening as soon as you wanted to. That process would open in September, October. We would have that community input process in October. Applications close on this first option timeline, October 27th. The board would meet then to review the candidate pool. In our College Station search, we had 48 applicants. The board there opted for us to review within 15 of those. They delegated to us, bring us what you think are the top 15. They interviewed 6 out of that 15. That number's up to you. In Midway, they just said, bring us 6. We had 45 applicants for Midway. They don't want to know who applied. They just said, bring us the top 6. That's who we want to meet. So we did that. College Station wanted to review 15 applicants. They picked those 6 out of that. Choice is totally yours. But you review that candidate pool. You select who you want to interview. First round and second round would occur those 2 weeks in November. Those days are totally set between Ms. Rogers and the board and us, and we would help you kind of think through that. Then there's a brief time period. If you want to do a district visit, we have time set aside for that. Sometimes you can have up to 3 board members go and visit after you've selected a finalist, but before that finalist is announced, you can do that if you choose. Then you would name your lone finalist on November 17th. The 21-day state mandatory waiting period would end on December 8th. And then that person could begin in January. Now, an alternate timeline would be starting a little bit later. And those same information, you would start in November, applications close January 1st. You would do interviews January 17th through the 26th, first and second round. Name a lone finalist on January 31st, and this person would start when your school year returns on March 18th. Now keep in mind, you could start this process in January and have somebody start in June or July. Totally up to you. These are just sample timelines. And by the way, you also have a proposal in front of you that we left with you that has a little bit more detail in there that has both these timelines, all of our fee structure, our contact, our references, and so forth. So I would direct you to that, as Rogers handed that out just a little bit earlier. Here is our fee process. It's a flat rate of $25,000. Then a limit of up to $2,000 in expenses. We would not come close to that. We're not far away. It's a short drive. That would be for copies if you wanted us to make those, or as Rogers could make those. It's totally up to the board and Dr. Crow and Ms. Rogers how you want to handle that. It's a flat rate of $25,000 plus up to $2,000 expenses. If you wanted us to develop an online survey, we have a fee for that, but most districts choose not to do that. Your staff is very capable of coming up with a feedback survey that you can do through Google, all kinds of easy ways to do that. And finally, Dr. Colson alluded to this earlier, but you need to know as well, we were classroom teachers, we've been assistant principals, we've been principals, we've been assistant superintendents, and superintendents. Bus driver, I did film crew at A&M Consolidated when I was a first-year teacher. I filmed the football team and drove the bus. As assistant principal, you get custodial duties as well, and I fish things out of commodes and out of the gutter and the dumpster, retainers out of the dumpster, and we've done it all. And that's important to you because you're asking for our feedback on helping narrow down a list of candidates, and you want your consultants to have had a hand in every part of the school business, and we have certainly done that. I retired 3 years ago from Lake Travis ISD, got very recent superintendent experience, and was superintendent during COVID for about 6 months, which is something we just we're glad is in the rearview mirror. But we wanted you to have a little bit of our resume, and our more complete resume is in your proposal there. I think that's the end of our very quick presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have for us.
What other searches do y'all have going on right now?
The only other search we have at the moment is assistant soup for human resources for a district in Texas.
And then, what is your non-compete once a superintendent is named? Like, that y'all can't try to recruit into another job?
Generally, you're looking at a 2 to 3 year don't touch kind. We wouldn't come back and recruit anybody we placed here. But that's also a double-edged sword. If you select a candidate you don't want, you may call us and say in a year, come get this person. But assuming we've done our job well, and based on Dr. Hartwriter's 10-year experience here, our job is to bring you somebody that you're going to fall in love with, and then our goal is a minimum of 3 years, we're not going to come back and recruit that person.
We can build into the contract whatever conversation we have with the board. Very good.
I'll tell you this, and you know this already, but this would be a very attractive search for a couple of reasons. Willis has an outstanding reputation already. You had a superintendent who was here 10 years who left on his own volition, wasn't run off. You've got the benefit of being a growing school district. Really, 80% of the districts in the state of Texas are declining or flat enrollment, 800 some odd out of 1,000. You're in the enviable position. It brings its challenges, but it makes it for a more attractive pool of candidates because you're not dealing with the financial difficulties of closing schools. And so this will be a very, very attractive school district, and you'll get a very, very strong candidate.
So based on the work that we have done in our 2 recent searches in districts of similar sizes, I would suspect that you could anticipate a similar number of very interested candidates for Willis ISD.
One for me, I appreciate you coming tonight and speaking here in public. I think for us is we want to. This is a community search, and so for whoever we hire as our search firm to help bring us candidates, we want them to speak to the public. I appreciate you throwing out what the number costs because we don't have anything to hide. And whoever we put back in this seat right here where Mr. Crow sits, we're going to find the right person, whether that takes 6 months, 3 months, or a year. We're going to find the best person for our teachers and for our administration, and we're not going to rush into this. And so, but I do appreciate you coming, presenting, and we're going to do our best to put the best person in that seat. And I appreciate y'all coming and presenting.
I'll say for Dr. Colson and myself, we're honored to be here. We're honored to be included as you're interviewing groups to do this. But I would say this is what we do as retired superintendents. We stay connected. We enjoy this work, but we don't have other superintendent searches going at the moment. We're concentrating on Willis. We would be honored to get to work, and you have our guarantee. And as much as you and I communicated with the College Station Search, you have our guarantee we'll be available, and this is what we do, and we want to help you with this process. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you. Take a drink of water right quick. The board will now convene into closed session for the purposes of considering matters for which closed sessions are authorized by Title V, Chapter 551, Texas Government Code .071 through .084. A, pursuant of Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.129, attorney consultation regarding pending litigation case of Mathis versus Willis Independent School District at all 551.071, 551.129, and then 551.071, 129, attorney consultation regarding legal issues regarding changes to Public Information Act. Item C, trustees may convene into closed session to obtain legal advice regarding Energy's Inc.'s request for a non-exclusive easement, Energy Texas, on an area of .3728 acres out of the certain real property owned by Willis ISD, is identified as a 20.178 acre remainder out of a 50.914 acre tract. Said property situated in the William Weir Survey Abstract 42, with the 50.94 recorded as file 201-002-4266 in the deed records of Montgomery County, Texas, Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.129. Item D, trustees may adjourn into closed session to obtain legal advice regarding the purchase of the following real estate interests in the district's use of future expansion of educational mention of the district. 1, fee simple. The real estate surface, mineral, and other improvements are approximately 60.9 acres, 2,656,463 square feet of land situated on the southwest corner of FM 830 and Interstate 45 out of the F.K. Henderson Survey, Abstract 248, and the Francis Cook Survey, Abstract number 118, City of Conroe, Texas, together with all the improvements, if any, thereon, and all the rights, title, interest of Farouk Shami Seller in the adjacent road, alleys, right-of-ways, drainage easements, utility easements as depicted in Exhibit A in the real estate sales contract, and 2, easement, a perpetual easement for 2 tracts of land 0.7804 acres out of the F.K. Henderson Survey, Abstract 248, City of Conroe, and Tract 2, 1.670 acres out of the F.K. Henderson Survey, Abstract 248, City of Conroe, Montgomery County, Texas, to be used for vehicular and pedestrian access as depicted and described in Exhibit A, together with a fee simple and easement for referred to as the property along the development agreement for the development of certain vehicular pedestrian infrastructure of the easement tracts, Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.129. Item E, discuss teacher resignations and consider approval of teacher appointments, Texas Government Code 551.074. Item F, discuss, consider, take possible action regarding contract abandonment of a teacher at Brabham Middle School. Item G, discuss and consider possible action items regarding the contract abandonment of special education professional. It is 6:13 p.m. The board will now reconvene into open session. It is 7:22 p.m. Are there any motions from closed session? Mr. Williams.
Move that the board designate the following 10 days of the 2023 calendar year and 5 days of the 2024 calendar year as non-business days for purposes of the Public Information Act, with the intention of designating an additional 5 days for calendar year 2024 for the 2024-2025 school year. Number 1, Monday, November 20th. Number 2, Tuesday, November 21st. Number 3, Wednesday, November 22nd. Number 4, Monday, December 18th. Number 5, Tuesday, December 19th. Number 6, Wednesday, December 20th. Number 7, Thursday, December 21st. Number 8, Friday, December 22nd. Number 9, Wednesday, December 27th. And number 10, Thursday, December 28th.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, a second by Mr. Carson. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes 7-0. Are there any further motions? Okay. No, sir.
No,
No.
there'll be no action on D. Item number C, I move that the board proceed in accordance with the resolution adopted on August 17, 2023, and further authorize the board president to sign a vehicular and pedestrian access easement in the form included in the materials code sales contract.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, a second by Ms. Traylor. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Are there any further motions? Mr. Williams.
I'll make a motion that we accept the superintendent's recommendation on the professional personnel listing.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, a second by Ms. Traylor. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Are there any other? Yes, sir.
I move that we find good cause, I move that we find good cause did not exist for Randall Stewart to abandon his probationary employment contract and authorize our board president to file a written complaint to the State Board of Educator Certification.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, a second by Mr. Carson. Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Yes, sir.
Move that we find good cause did not exist for Lindsey Graham to abandon her probationary employment contract and authorize our board president to file a written complaint to the State Board of Educator Certification.
Well, we're gonna do the first part of it.
Okay.
Stop after contract, employment contract.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we need to redo it?
Yeah, probably need to redo it.
I move that we find good cause did not exist for Lindsey Graham to abandon her probationary employment contract.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, a second by Ms. Traylor. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. I think that's it. Perfect. So turn it over to Mr. Crowe. We got the Pledge of Allegiance, Invocation, Lagway Elementary School.
Lagway Elementary School, and
Good evening, everyone. Mr. President, Mr. Crowe, Board of Trustees, and sweet Miss Carol. It is our pleasure to introduce some exemplary students from Lagway Elementary that will lead us in the pledges and our prayer this evening. We have Mr. Brock Stratemeyer, we have Katie Mansfield, and Miss Sophia Hamby. So at this time, if everyone will please stand.
If you have any hats, please take them off, put your right hand over your heart, and face the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now Miss Katie Mansfield.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
And Miss Sophia Hamby.
If you can all bow your heads, please. Dear God, thank you for this amazing beginning of the school year. Despite all the changes and uncertainty, we all thank you for our wonderful school board, superintendent, our teachers, for our principals, and for our parents too. We also thank you for our beautiful schools, for our playgrounds, the food that you bless us with in our cafeterias, and transportation. Bless each student and staff and surround us with safety and care for each other. Lord, help us each day to do our best and provide us with wisdom through the school year. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen.
Amen. Great job.
And now I'd like to welcome Miss Wilson, one of our first grade teachers, to introduce our student of the month.
Good evening. This was an easy nomination for me to make. Excuse my hoarse voice, 'tis the season. So Sophia is my student, and she is a model student. She lives out our school pledge every day. And she makes me proud, she makes teachers proud, I know she makes her parents proud, and I know that she's super proud of herself. She comes to school to learn, she works hard, she does her best, she is a leader, and she's a great friend. I am so blessed to be her teacher, and every single teacher needs a Sophia in their classroom. So congratulations, Sophia.
First thing I want to give you.
You don't last, we already.
And a certificate of recognition, Willis ISD Elementary Student of the Month for September, and signed by Mr. Hagemeyer and myself. And there is a gift card and a water bottle.
Move in the middle?
Yeah.
In the middle, big girl. Sit down.
Hello, greetings, Board President Hagemeyer, Mr. Tom Crow, Superintendent, board members, and Ms. Rogers. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Ms. Honeycutt, who is one of our assistant principals, who will introduce our Student of the Month for Bradford Middle School for September.
Good evening, everyone. I have the distinct pleasure of presenting our Bradford Middle School Student of the Month. This is Mr. Daniel McBride. Daniel's teachers have said that he is always diligently working to complete any task that he's given in class. He has a positive attitude. He's extremely polite and respectful. This is one of the most respectful kids I think I've ever met in middle school. Like, he's awesome. They said that he gives quiet, maximum effort. He's always working hard towards becoming a leader in the classroom, and he does not ask for or seek attention. And that's a beautiful thing and a good quality in a young man. All right. He's also expressed interest in serving in our military after he completes his career in high school. He is extremely active on our campus. He is a 3-sport athlete competing in football, basketball, and track. His coaches state that he is a model athlete. He has intangibles that will make him successful throughout his life. But sadly, due to a current injury, he is down right now, but we look forward to seeing him out on the football field very, very soon. And our September 2023 Student of the Month is Mr. Daniel McBride.
You want to serve in the military? It's the United States Naval Academy.
Great job.
Good evening, Board and Mr. Crow and Ms. Rogers. Thank you for having us here tonight. We're excited to present a couple more things. So we got a really neat phone call contact last week from the City of Willis, and they have approved a proclamation for World Teachers Day in honor of Willis ISD. And we have Mayor Reed here tonight so that we can thank him for that generous effort. You want to come up? So I'd like to read you the proclamation. You do have a copy of it. Whereas the City of Willis's future strength depends on providing a high-quality education to all students, and whereas teacher quality matters more to student achievement than any other school-related factor, and whereas teachers spend countless hours preparing lesson plans and supporting students, And whereas our Willis ISD teachers have demonstrated great resilience, adaptability, and creativity during the COVID-19 crisis, and whereas our community recognizes and supports its teachers in educating the children of this community, and whereas Teachers Can is a statewide movement supported by more than 150 partnering businesses and organizations committed to elevating the teaching profession and honoring the critical role teachers play in the success of Texas. And now therefore be it proclaimed that the Willis City Council joins Teachers Can and its partnering entities across Texas in celebrating World Teachers Day and proclaims October 5th, 2023 to be Willis's Teachers Day. Be it further proclaimed that the Willis City Council encourages members of our community to be a light for Willis teachers and personally express appreciation to our teachers and display a light blue ribbon outside your home or business the week of October 5th as a symbol of support for our educators. And they adopted this on September 12th. And I'd like to introduce Mr. Ken Lebonsky, Director of Fine Arts, and he is going to tell you about a special week we have going on.
Thank you, Jamie. Good evening, Mr. President, board members, Mr. Crow, and of course, Ms. Rogers. Last week was National Arts and Education Week, and with that in mind, Mr. Glenn and I wanted to take a moment to frame some quick key facts about our fine arts in the district and share a short video in celebration of those programs with you. There are currently 7,812 students across all campuses that participate in at least one fine arts class. That's 87% of our students that have a curricular fine arts experience each week in our district. And I have the honor of working with the 41 fine arts teachers listed on the paper in front of you. Together, we celebrate what is wonderful about our programs and plan for new experiences in the future. Our goal in the fine arts is to provide both direct skills that help students with careers and education paths, as well as soft skills that help students be successful in all paths, making them stronger leaders, problem solvers, and team members. Most importantly, we teach skills that help students learn how to have enjoyable lives in the future and as future community members. What you see in front of you is our curricular and vertical philosophy that ties the pride of creative expression to excellence and standards. We thank each of you and all of our departments in the district for their continued support in the fine arts. Please enjoy this short video.
The arts and Willis ISD are communication, creativity, cooperation. Study the arts in schools. Students have the opportunity to build on skills, enhance their lives, and experience the world from a new perspective. The creative process is decision-making skill, teaching, expression, and communication. Most importantly, the arts is a platform for connection, where students belong to a community that celebrates the creative process. A celebration of refined mistakes, a celebration of negotiating decisions, and a celebration of reflecting the effectiveness of choices. Ask yourself, fine art make a difference in society? answer that question, that they are every minute of every school day. We, as a community, are grateful for the emphasis placed on the arts in school. Proud to watch our students participate and excel in the fine arts experience that offer Willis ISD. I feel the need to improvise a little bit based on some technological issues there. And what our program would teach, if our technicians in our theater program were working with that, they would have to work that situation. That's exactly what I was talking about, that community and culture. So thank you so much for your continued support. We appreciate you. We appreciate everyone in their departments. Thank you so much.
The video is fine. I will send it to y'all so that you can see it. Obviously, videos on a network are not part of our finer arts. But yeah, technical difficulties. We did have it play earlier, and so I apologize, but we will get that to you.
Standing information and ad hoc items, reports and items. A, Willis ISD preliminary first rating financial integrity rating systems of payments. Garrett.
Sure. I have a presentation for y'all tonight. We'll make sure to get it out on the screen for y'all.
Give me a sing.
I can get mine back up here. You can probably do something a little better than I could. There you go. Okay. Well, good evening, Board, Ms. Crow, Ms. Carroll. I'm here tonight to present and discuss the preliminary 2022-2023 first rating. Being that this is preliminary, I'm going to give you a summarized version tonight, and then for the October meeting, we will be going into more detail on each indicator.
Hello.
Yeah, there we go. The first rating stands for the Financial Integrity Rating of Texas and was established by the TEA starting in 2001. The goal of the first rating is to be a metric to measure the financial health of all school districts across the state. There is a required public meeting, which will be held next month, as well as a requirement to disclose documentation. Might have to have you do it for me. Those required disclosures include a public notice in the newspaper, the superintendent contract, and the required board and superintendent spending reports. It's also important to note the time frame which applies to this first report. The following first report measures data from the 21-22 audited year, which ran from September 1st, 2021 to August 31st, 2022. The first rating contains 20 indicators to measure the financial health and compliance. The first 4 are yes or no indicators. These are pass, fail. There are 5 ceiling indicators. If one of these indicators has failed, there is a ceiling that applies to the best score that you can receive. For example, the ceiling for one of these indicators is a 79. If the district board had failed this indicator, they could only receive up to a 79 and a C rating. Lastly, there are 11 indicators that are scored on a range of 1 to 10, 3 of which the state has decided not to score this year. For the yes and no indicators, the district received yeses on all 4. Again, next month we're going to dive into each one of these individually, but to summarize, did we turn our audit in on time? Was there unmodified auditor opinion? Did we pay our debt and governmental obligations on time? The answer to all 4 of those questions is yes. For the ceiling indicators, again, did we pay our bills on time? Does the district maintain a healthy fund balance? Was our PEMS information submitted accurately? Was our audit free of any material weaknesses? And lastly, did we discuss budget and funding updates with the board, which that would have been in the form of the budget workshops in June and July. Each of these indicators the district has passed. For the scored indicators, the district received full credit on every indicator except for 1. We will go into detail on each one of these at the next board meeting, but for now, we can take a quick look at the one that we did not receive full credit on.
The debt ratio is a calculation that measures our INS fund revenue, our long-term liabilities, and our assessed property values. To put it simply, our long-term liabilities are the school bonds that we have passed, that have been passed by voters and sold to finance the building and maintenance of our campuses and capital projects. As a fast growth district, which has passed multiple bond elections in a relatively short time frame, this indicator is effective. If you take a look at our score last year, we had a 5.87 and got 8 points on this indicator last year. In the meantime, we passed the bond election in May of 2022 and sold those bonds in July of 2022. So that is taken into effect for the calculation for this year. So for this year, we received 7.73 on this indicator, which gave us 6 points. That being said, the district received a total of 96 out of 100 points for the 22-23 first rating, resulting in a rating of A, superior achievement. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And again, we will go over this in very detail in the next month's board meeting.
Good job. Item B, state testing results 2022-2023.
Good evening, Mr. Crow, Board of Trustees, Mrs. Rogers. Each year, the state requires school districts to present your state testing results from the previous year. And so what you have in front of you in your board book are our previous scores for STAR testing. There are multiple components within that state mandated testing, and we will go through those by each testing area. So as you see, we are starting with December retest. This means any student at the high school that didn't pass their end of course, let's say in the spring, they have to retest in December. So if we have high school students in this last spring that didn't pass their EOC, they also have a summer retest opportunity. And if they don't pass the summer, they have another retest in December. So you can see that the state gives multiple opportunities for students to pass these exams throughout their high school career. So with your December EOC test, typically and historically we see anywhere from 20 to 25, 30% passing rate. Those are students that we are intervening on academically, but when you see retests in the summer and December, we typically see the trending of 20 to 25, 30% historically that those students pass during the retest. You can see this. No, you're good. You're good. They call this TELPAS, performance testing. This is part of the English language proficiency assessment performance. It's for our bilingual students that are learning English. So the state does mandate testing. So as we go through this, you're going to see the areas in green that's going to correspond throughout this report. That green means we made growth. So we want to make sure that you also know that they call this test that we took in the spring STAR 2.0 because it is a redesign that the state put before students. That means that there were new question types that the students had never seen. We were online completely, 100%, unless it was ARTed in or specifically mandated within an IEP. So it was all online. So what we had to do as a district is we actually set up a system where kids had access to a practice platform. Campuses dedicated time within the school time, beginning in the fall, for kids to practice on that platform because we were very concerned about abruptly going from paper to online. We did, the prior year, prior to the mandate, we did a pilot. So we tried to phase in the online prior to just mandating everyone go without ever practicing. The campuses, principals, the teachers did an excellent job dedicating time within the classes so that they could actually practice online platform so they could get ready for the new question types and they could be ready for what that looked like as an online assessment. So please know going forward, this was the first year of a redesign from the state. The scores that you'll see here, this is your K through 2. When you look at TELPAS, they're tested on listening, speaking, reading, writing, and you can see the extensive growth in the green. Those are the areas that we made growth K through 2. This is 3 through 5. TELPAS grades. I want you to notice the first column. That's the number of students that tested in the TELPAS 3 through 5. Jamie, if you could go back to the previous slide, I'd like to show K through 2. Again, that first column, you'll notice the number of students that took this test and that are under the accountability system that counted within this test. And this will really make more sense when you get into some star alt, where there are a single number of children that make up that those testers for the district. Thank you, Ms. Fels. We can go on to, that's 3 through 5, and now this is 6 through 8. Again, you've got growth, definite growth across the board, 6 through 8. There's also some areas of concern. So we talked about this at MAP. We're using the same interventions as far as how do we address those deficits. And we do that in the classroom level with our experts, and those experts are our teachers. So we talked about how we did that, and we'll talk about that a little more in depth as we move forward. And this is your TELPAS 9 through 12. Again, those number of students tested, you'll see how those look different across the grade levels. This is your TELPAS alternate. This is a holistic inventory for our bilingual students that have the most significant cognitive disabilities. The state mandates that those students that qualify, they still have to go through a holistic testing mandated by TEA. You're going to notice the number of students that are tested 2 through 5, single digit, and that's, you do not, the alternate is not given in kinder or first, so that's why you don't see that. In this situation with your TELPAS alternate, you really look at the individual student from year to year. This is your 6 through 8. Again, 3 students, 2 students, 1 student. They still test through the listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And here are your 9 through 12 scores. Your STAR alternate, these are going to be your students with most significant cognitive disabilities and your that are non-bilingual. They are also, again, identified, and they are mandated that they take state testing. Our students performed as followed, 3 through 8. You can see that we have great growth in that level 3, and most of our students are landing in that area. Go ahead, Ms. Fales. This form looks a little different because EOCs are given, there are different EOC tests in the high school, but they're given at different grade levels. So that's why you see that shift, and it's not aligned just perfectly underneath one another. You can see the grade levels in which they're given. And now you see your STAR performance. That's typically what you know as STAR performance. These tests are given on one day. They're required by the state. And typically with STAR performance, our state will adopt an accountability manual prior to the STAR test being given. So in the fall, prior to last year, they would adopt a manual that would give the school district the rubric from which you are graded on. For example, teachers typically give parents and students a rubric prior to the test so they know how to perform. Prior to a project, so they know what they're getting graded on, correct? The state typically does that, but this year it did not happen that way. This year, the state did not adopt, when I say this year, the year we're talking about, 22-23. Last year, the district never received an adopted accountability manual. We never received what we were going to be held accountable for. So as a school district, we made sure that we did everything we could to make sure students grew a full grade level or intervened on gaps. So when you move into the spring and you get to STAR, you never had that rubric. The state waited until our Willis kids and other public school kids tested, and then they created a rubric that they haven't adopted to be able to put the scores in so that they would give an A through F. So I want you to know, number one, we don't have an accountability manual from last year. We haven't adopted one for this year, and we are currently, there is a delay on A through F rating because of an injunction at the state level. So there's a lot of things that we'll go into, but I'm going to just go ahead and go through the performance from last spring. Yes, sir.
Just a reminder that we joined that injunction.
Yes, sir. And that there's
You guys joined.
and September 25th is the first day of that injunction. This includes, there are two things that the state failed to do for us, the commissioner failed to do, and that's Texas public schools together. They failed to adopt an accountability manual that would give districts full disclosure on what they were going to be accountable for. They also failed to give a rating by August 15th. So they are going to explore really the fairness, equitable part of what that A through F rating looks like. So when you look at your STAR scores, and you can look at it as a parent, community member, board member, teacher, you're going to see a component score and you're going to see a scaled score. Your component score is what your child or our students in Willis, that's how they rated. Like that score is what they did on that day. The scaled score is right next to that. The scaled score is your child's, our kid's score in the state's rubric. There's fairy dust on our kids' scores. So when you look at that as a parent or a board member, there is a difference in the score, because they're not just rating what your kid did, what our kids did. They're putting it in a rubric and comparing based on the indicators they decide on. So just a little background as you go through and you start reading about this litigation. It may delay, it may be that they don't rate public schools, but as you go through this is simply our STAR performance from last spring on a redesigned test. These are your campus scores from spring 22 to 23. We gave you the color green, obviously, to show the growth. And you can see Parmalee, Hardy, Turner, Cannon, Metter, and Lagway listed on the left. On a redesign, you're seeing great improvement. You're seeing teachers working hard, and you're seeing principals do great jobs at the campus level. Very proud of the growth that we had, that our students made and the teachers dedicated themselves to. Next slide. Here's your 6 through 8. We've talked about middle schools being a priority, 5 through 8 this year being a priority. You can see that there's growth. So no matter what you think is out there in the media and the marketing, this is what Willis kids accomplished and the teachers accomplished on a test they'd never seen, on a redesign and questions they'd never seen, and on an accountability manual that was never given to them. Next slide. End of course are high school tests. These are all for high school students. And you can see that we made growth in the approaches area in all 5 areas. Notice at the bottom, you're going to see that I said it's for high school, but we have high school courses at Lucas and Bravo. You can see that they take biology and Algebra 1 if they are in those courses. This does not count in our high school scores.
And keep that Algebra 1 down to junior high level, is that correct?
Yes, sir, and the biology. So let's just say your middle schools are performing high. Look at your approaches. You have 90%, 97%, 99%, 100%, 100%. Those high school EOCs that you're taking at the middle school do not count in your middle school accountability. And that's by design, by the state. These are your June retests. Again, December and June, we see a lower passing rate. However, we have seen growth. And those kids are really trying to make sure that they meet what they need for the graduation requirements for the high school every time they retest. Any questions?
Thank you.
Item C, safety and performance report. and bill payment. Any questions? Student enrollment report. Any questions? Bond project summary. Questions? Do you have a motion to accept the consent agenda? Yes, sir.
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, a second by Ms. Schrader. Are there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. 10, discussion and possible action items. A, discuss and consider approval of bids related to request for proposal RFP number 70123, on-site health and wellness clinic services.
Sure, good evening again. To give a quick background on this, the district's contract with the provider that manages the wellness center expired in May of this year. We took this as an opportunity to issue an RFP and to secure some bids for those services. Given that the wellness center is heavily involved with healthcare and health insurance, we utilized our third-party administrator, Walker & Associates, to perform and analyze the RFP on the district's behalf. I would like to introduce Rourke Waltney with Walker & Associates to review the results of the RFP and to make a recommendation of award.
Thank you, Garrett.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Interim Superintendent Crow. It's nice to meet you. And of course, I'll keep with the trend, Miss Sweet Carol. It's good to see you. So I'm with Walker & Associates, and I'll present the findings from our RFP. So the Willis ISD Health Plan has been successfully self-funded for over 25 years because of focused leadership and sound consulting advice. In 2014, Walker & Associates assisted the district to install and open your very first on-site health and wellness clinic for the district employees and their dependents. This is a carve-out, and what it does is it delivers primary care that is normally considered retail at wholesale pricing. So it's a huge savings for the Willis Health Plan, and it's also a delivery of amazing care and services to your employees at no cost. So the Premise Health Company is who took over Care Here. Care Here had managed the clinic starting in 2014. Premise has a large footprint in the clinic provider service industry and acquired Care Here last year. During this tenure, Willis ISD was exempted from bidding the services of the clinic because they were under the interlocal agreement with another county who also used the services of Care Here for their on-site clinic. That interlocal agreement dissolved this year in April, and as of May, we worked with the district to go ahead and release an RFP so that we could be compliant with the bidding requirements. So with the RFP process, we did release the RFP on July 17th with a deadline of coming back by July 31st. And again, with an award date set for this month. For the board meeting, we developed a viable vendor list of on-site and what are called near-site clinic service providers. Near-site would be not necessarily on the Willis campus, for instance. Near-site would be a location nearby. In addition, the Willis ISD procurement department did the standard public notices that are required. The RFP was sent formally to 11 clinic services providers. 3 of those submitted requests for proposal: the current incumbent, Premise Health, Marathon Health, and a new company called Health E Here, which is made up of some of the former leadership from Care Here. 3 declined to quote, and 5 were non-responsive. The RFP analysis is in-depth. It consists of reviewing the data that's provided by vendors compared to the specs that are outlined in the RFP. And we measure these data points through several methods: a submittal checklist, vendor qualifications, minimum requirements, their response to the scope of work, references and/or their past relationship with the district, and of course 3 questionnaires that cover quite a bit of information, including organizational and administrative capabilities, their financial strength, their clinic operations and management techniques, including wellness and cost containment,
cost of services both near and long-term, including fees, staffing, labs, and medications. Overall, a total of 50 questions and 20 requirements go into the decision matrix. And you can see how the scoring and the weighting is listed below. So quality of goods and services at 35%, cost of goods and services, again at 35%, the district needs at 10, long-term cost at 10, past relationship at 5, and references at 5. So we can see that Premise came out on top. They had the highest scores in both cost of goods and services and quality of goods and services. So they, of course, are the recommended vendor for on-site clinic services. Healthy Here had a great showing with this RFP. However, they are new in terms of being a new business, so they do not really have a lot of clients, which hurt them in this RFP process. They're also small compared to Marathon Health. Marathon Health has a larger footprint than Healthy Here. But let's look at the numbers. So your budget in 2024 was projected to be overall cost at $565,579. And if we look back in time when we opened the clinic, I want you to look at what it cost in 2014, $575,042. So they really came in with good pricing. This is a 3-year contract that we'll be awarding to Premise Health. They operate over 800 wellness clinics across 45 states. They have a very large footprint in the industry, and they currently serve 16 school districts. So they're very good at delivering these goods and services to employees, just like yours here at Willis ISD. And as I've mentioned, they do have a large footprint in the industry of over $1 billion. So this is an excellent company to continue to manage and run your clinic for the next 10 years. Walker & Associates recommends Premise Health to be awarded the contract for on-site health and wellness services for the Willis ISD Employee Healthcare Clinic. Premise Health will continue to bring best-in-class clinic services and value to the district and its employees. Thank you so much. Any questions?
I move that the board accept the superintendent's recommendation to award the contract related to RFP 171723 for on-site health and wellness clinic services to Premise Health.
I have a motion by Mr. Parsons, second by Mr. Jones. Any further questions? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. At this point in time, I want to go back to consent agenda item B, approval of 2023-2024. I want to make sure that we got that in our motion, but because it is a purchase over $50,000, I'd like to do that individually because I may have made a mistake. I'm not saying that I did, but I may have. So I want to go ahead and cover it. So this, they're both approved? Yeah. Perfect, as long as Ms. Carroll says it. Okay, perfect.
As long as.
Well, I'm glad I wasn't wrong. Yeah. Perfect. Item, discuss possible action items B. Discuss and consider approval of joining the PACE Purchasing Cooperative administered by Region 20 ESC.
Yes, sir. Good evening again. The district is requesting the board approve the district's participation in the, I'm going to call it PACE Purchasing Cooperative through Region 20. As a school district using public funds, we are required to follow procurement laws and guidelines when it comes to vendors that we do business with. A purchasing cooperative is an entity that bids out a wide array of goods and services and enters into contracts with vendors satisfying those requirements. As a district, we are able to join with these purchasing cooperatives, both state and nationwide, to gain access to those contracts and satisfy those purchasing guidelines. There is no fee to join the PACE Purchasing Cooperative. Specifically and locally, the district uses Sam's Club to source everything from concession stand items to food for our culinary arts program. Our current contract with Sam's, or Sam's current contract with the co-op, has expired. but is current with the PACE co-op. So we are asking to join PACE Purchasing Cooperative so we can continue to utilize Sam's Club in the near future. And this will also allow us to use any of the vendors approved through PACE. Be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Jones.
I move that the board accept the superintendent's recommendation and authorizes Willis ISD to enter into the interlocal agreement with Region 20 ESC and approve the resolution to participate in the PACE Purchasing Cooperative.
We have a motion by Mr. Jones, a second by Mr. Carson. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Item C, discuss and consider approval of joining the Text Buy Purchasing Cooperative administered by Region 16 ESC.
We're going to have some very angry teachers if we didn't approve for Sam's. Virginia would have got on me pretty quick on that. It's very similar to what was just approved. The district is also requesting approval to participate in the Text Buy Purchasing Cooperative through Region 16. I asked our purchasing agent, Jennifer Walker, to identify any other cooperatives that the district could benefit from joining. She identified both PACE and Text Buy as widely used throughout the state. Again, there is no costs associated with joining Text Buy, and I'll also add that there's no obligation to use any vendors through a specific cooperative. Both Text Buy and PACE are operated through the region centers, so they are meant to be resources to school districts. At the end of the day, what this does is gives us more options. We're constantly trying to save money. If there's a vendor that has an item or a service less on one cooperative, Text Buy versus PACE versus a buy board, we're able to have that option to utilize that contract and ultimately save the district some money.
And we need it this year.
Yes, sir, we do. Happy to answer any other questions.
Mr. Williams.
Move that the board accept the superintendent's recommendation and authorizes Willis ISD to enter into an interlocal agreement with Region 16 ESC and approve the resolution participating in the Text Buy Purchasing Cooperative.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, a second by Coach Perry. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Item D, consider personal body safety and child abuse curriculum.
Kelly and I.
Sir. Good evening, President Hibner, Mr. Crow, members of the board. So we are tasked by the state to instruct students in certain areas. You'll see them up there. This is very similar to what I presented in the spring with dating violence. Same procedures we'll go through, but I'll walk you through them. But I wanted to say, when we're looking at child abuse curriculum, so due to the sensitive topic of this and the age of the students that we are supposed to instruct on this topic, we gave great care and consideration. There's many different books and curriculums out there, and I viewed all of them in consideration, and it took over a year to look at those. There were a lot that I removed from consideration due to the content in there. I did not believe that it was appropriate and based on the values of our community. I then took recommendations, worked with the Region 16, viewed those, and then also did a review of the curriculum with our counselors. So we took very good care and consideration when selecting the materials to present to you tonight. So let's go through the requirements from the state. So when we're looking at, and the reason that it says personal body safety in bold up there versus child abuse, that's a language that I would like our campuses to use versus let's do our child abuse curriculum. I think that's overexposure to the children. So personal body safety just means that, keeping our bodies safe. That could be scuffles on the playground, that could be lots of different areas, but not overexposing our young children to the terms of child abuse. I think that's a little too much for them. And me being a mother of 2 young girls, I think of them every time I review curriculum like this. So if it's not good enough for my children, it's not good enough for the children of Willis ISD. So the first requirement is that it must be selected by the board with the advice of our local SHAC. I did bring this to SHAC. We reviewed it twice, and they approved it unanimously. So one thing we have to do is we also have to align it with our state health teams. So you can see what the state has put out in our health curriculum and areas that we need to cover. So we need to identify trusted adults. Curriculum has to include that. They have to cover refusal skills and saying no to protect personal space and avoid any unsafe situations. We have to identify what personal space and boundaries look like. And we have to explain and practice how to get help from or report to a parent or a trusted adult if they feel uncomfortable or unsafe. And again, this is looking at grades K to 6. We are utilizing our counselors to deliver this curriculum. We feel like they're the most trained in the school district, so no lesson would be delivered through anyone except for our professional school counselors. Here are the resources that we chose. You were able to view them before this meeting. You can see each one of the grade levels has a different book that the counselor would read, and then up to 5th and 6th grade. And that one we would split the book because it is a long one. So questions that we get quite often is, what if my student has a question about child abuse during or after the reading? How will the counselor respond? Well, the counselors will direct all students with any additional questions to have that conversation with the parent. That is the most appropriate place to have that conversation, so we will direct them to their parent for further discussion. Other questions we get is, what if a student makes an outcry to the counselor after learning about this curriculum? Our counselors are trained in protecting all students in the group. They are very good at diverting, stopping conversations before overexposure to other students happen. They do it in a very loving way. They let the students know what you have to say is important, however it needs to just come to me and not to others in the classroom. And so counselors are mandatory reporters, so they will report anything that a student has said to them if it does fall under the guidelines of neglect or child abuse. And then they will get in contact with a parent or a safe person on the child's emergency list and get them connected that way. So what if I don't want my child to participate in this? It is a parent's right we don't know every situation that students are going through. So we allow parents, and the state has allowed this as well, and opt out, and that's based on Senate Bill 9. And so we will have a form for that, and I'll show you that in just a few minutes. But I know that is a big concern for parents, is how do I opt out? So the next thing we have to look at is the opt-out form. And so they have to give us consent there. And actually, I said that wrong because opt-out versus opt-in, yes. I live in 2 different worlds. Some of the things I deal with is opt-out, some of them is opt-in. So we always get the question of how do we opt out, but Senate Bill 9 requires us to opt in and not opt out. So let me clarify that. So this is the permission slip that we have. We've listed the TEKS there so parents know why we are teaching this and what it will be. There will also be a QR code added, so parents will have all of the information presented to you. They will be able to easily access it, and it will also be posted on my website. So we require these. They must go out 14 days before the presentation, and only students who have that form returned can participate in it. The last thing is we have to make it available. So the public needs to be able to view this at any point and see what it is before they make that decision. It helps parents make informed decisions. And so that has already been added to my website, and then I will add in the documents there. The QR code will take parents there as well. They'll have this full presentation along with the YouTube links that you guys received ahead of time, and full access to everything that we have that may be presented to their child. We'll also provide additional resources because maybe parents want more, they want to have a bigger discussion but don't really know how to have that. So we will provide additional resources for parents as well. So that is what I have for you. Any questions?
Mr. Carson.
Make the motion that we accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the personal body safety child abuse curriculum as presented.
I have a motion by Mr. Carson, a second by Mr. Williams. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you so much.
Next item, item E, discuss and consider approval of products or services by Solution Tree in excess of $50,000.
So the next three items that you're going to hear about are going to come from principals. And the reason it's going to come from principals is because this conversation started back in July when we noticed our data trends. But more importantly, principals met with their teachers and consistently had conversation of what their needs are. And principals made sure that their teachers had input on what the future of the next year looked like. So not only do these recommendations come from the campus level, it comes from the principal and their needs assessment based on what teachers gave feedback on and what student need is required. So when you see these, this is based on the immediate need of your neediest campuses based on student data and the trends. So if you ask why these three campuses, it is absolutely because of the data that we're seeing and the growth that's necessary and the additional support that's needed on each campus immediately. So this is definitely going to impact teachers and students at these three campuses, and I'm going to allow the experts at each of those campuses recommend these items. First up would be C.C. Hart. Yes, sir.
She can come on up. Remind the board that we pulled this agenda item in August. And we did that because we wanted the campuses to be involved in that decision, not that it's being handed down from central office. So they looked at 3 different companies. One of them wasn't viable, but they selected these companies as a campus. We didn't select them for them. And so I want to point that out that this is the second go around of this, and that we felt like the teachers and the principals should have a major say in the assistance that they get.
Ms. Susan Fosler, C.C. Hardy Principal.
All right, President Hagermeyer, School Board, Mr. Crow, and of course, Ms. Sweet, Carol Rogers. I'm the proud principal of C.C. Hardy Elementary and wanted to talk to you tonight about the need of our campus. I'm presenting today my request to use Solution Tree as a support for Hardy Elementary. Every year as a Title I campus, we complete a campus needs assessment. As a staff and community, we met to determine the appropriate plan to meet the needs of the campus. I believe that Solution Tree is able to offer the holistic approach needed to provide necessary support for students to grow and bridge the gap in their learning. Each solution that was presented is built on research-based processes to support staff, confront essential standards or challenges, embedded key strategies and practices, and fosters sustainable change. I ask that you consider the request for the staff and students at C.C. Hardy.
Any questions from Ms. Foster?
I have a question. I have a question because we've had Solution Tree in. You guys are the experts. You went about talking to your staff, your teachers who are the experts that are using this product. What are they saying is going to be different this time than last time? And how are we going to be able to see data from this?
That's a very good question. And actually, when we thought about what was going to be best for our campus, we really looked at our teachers are a vital, important part of decision making. And the part of Solution Tree that I liked is they take a needs assessment from the teachers. They come and they watch our campus. They give us input, but they also are going to grow our Guiding Coalition leadership team. That's our teacher leaders. So our teachers are a part of this guidance. It's just more fine-tuned. They're also offering sessions to help with the content and help with even any other areas that we might need. For our campus, we're looking at that Tier 1 instruction. Our teachers are amazing at looking at the data, breaking down it apart, and intervening and bridging the gaps from years behind. What we're needing support on is that Tier 1 instruction, just making sure that we're asking those high-level questions in the classroom. They're making great plans. It's the implementation, and that's what they're providing for us.
Okay, and that wasn't provided before?
We were more looking at the process of looking at those essential standards and breaking them apart.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, and so, I mean, again, like, I'm in healthcare, not education. Commend all of y'all for what y'all do. And I support whatever you guys need, make sure that we weren't, I want to know the difference between the 5 years and what's gonna be different now.
No, thank you for that.
Susan, have you keyed in on some subject areas?
So as you saw, we saw growth in our 4th grade math, but we are needing some support in some of the younger grades like 3rd and 5th. Reading is a kind of a content area we really need that support. We do not know that the test did change. It includes language arts. It also includes shortened constructive responses that they have never done before. And we also had paired passages on 3rd grade that we have never done before. So we're having to see that the rigor is changing because the way our students are being assessed is different than what we've ever seen before.
Can you talk a little bit about Advantage that y'all going to have access to?
Yes, so that actually is a program. Yes, exactly. It will be where it's kind of where there's master teachers that we can assign those specific things to our teachers. So let's say we have a teacher that needing more support. We can have them look at some teachers on our campus and throughout the district, but there's also master teachers that are research-based that they have shown growth in their essential standards. And so it just allows us to be very specific to the teacher's specific needs. So we may have some that are showing great data and great growth, and we may have some that need a little bit extra support. So it's just another way to see that occurring and just another visual of a master teacher.
And these are not long videos, are they? They're little short clips.
No, they're not extremely long, yes.
I got a question. Is this just a 1-year contract, or is this a several-year contract?
It's a single-year contract.
Just a single year?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you and the Trinity, y'all know, so I mean, we'll be able to.
And there'll be some walks of classrooms also, correct?
Yes, ma'am. They will actually be providing some coaching, and they're going to guide not just the teachers, but us as leaders to make sure we're sustaining that growth. And that's why you're looking at that 1-year contract, because their job is to come in, support, and they really want to work themselves out of that position.
Do we have any more questions? Ms. Williams.
Move that the board accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the expenditures in relation to the products and services provided by Solution Tree in excess of $50,000.
I have a motion by Mr. Williams. Do we have a second? We have a motion, second by Coach Perry. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those opposed? Okay. We have 5, 4, 2 against. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item F, discuss, consider approval of products and services provided by Solution Tree in excess of $50,000.
Good evening, President Hagmeyer, Board of Trustees, Mr. Crow, and sweet Carol. I'm going to up it a little. I had to add that extra sweet. I am here because everything Ms. Fossler said is very similar to what we're seeing we need at Lynn Lucas. For the past 5 years, Lynn Lucas has been an improvement required school, meaning we are not doing what we need to do for our kids. We have had a very high turnover. We have a lot of new teachers this year, and we have a lot of returning teachers who are still new to the process. So we are trying to help coach teachers, and as you know, I have a new admin team as well, and we're trying to coach our teachers in a process that's going to help our kids grow. We saw the benefits, we saw the impact at Parmley, and we want to grow our campus the way we grew Parmley. We just want to do it a little bit faster, so we know we need some extra support to help us get there. We have seen, we believe that all kids can learn at high levels, and we're pushing that culture, and we're really trying to change that culture and the climate within our campus. But with the high turnover and the new teachers and a new admin team, we know we need support, and we need support with coaching our teachers. We have amazing instructional coaches on our campus, but we feel we need the extra additional support because there are just so many things that we need to adjust and we need to grow in on our campus. We truly believe that Solution Tree is the best option for us because I believe in their process, I believe in what they've done, I believe in what we are doing in our district and at most of our schools, and I feel they have the longevity in the field and the proven success in building the culture and climate in schools, because they have been in schools and they have that success already shown. So that is why I'm asking y'all tonight to approve Solution Tree for our campus.
Any questions?
Kelly?
Yes, ma'am.
Subject areas of concern.
Reading. Reading is my biggest subject area of concern. You saw earlier that science in 7th grade also didn't show any growth, but reading is a big concern. We met in our collaborative meeting the other day and we were talking about reading, and we have 2 7th grade reading teachers, and you know, they spoke out about their struggles with how to use the data from their assessments. We don't have a whole lot of data input that we put it in and we just track it. We talk about it. We talk about what we're going to do with data and the plan we have for the data. Like, what are we going to do for our kids that aren't getting it? That's the big thing. How are we going to work with our kiddos who aren't getting it? But then the kids who are getting it and they need more enrichment, what are we going to do for them? And so right now the problem is we're struggling with that coaching piece. We're having to go into a lot of classrooms and help them with that process and digging through it. So we're hoping that a consultant or someone that can come in and help us with that process will be able to help us target the small group instruction that we need with that data. So we need some tier 1 support with the high level questions, but we also need that intervention piece. When they're not getting it, what are we doing? And so that's what we're hoping to gain, is some support with that process. But reading is a big one. What about the math? Math is a concern and we need to grow there. Right now you saw a lot of negative with the reading, and so that was a big area. But we are hoping that with the Solution Tree we'll have both math and reading with the content.
Reading affects both math and
Everything.
science.
It does.
Absolutely.
The science test is a lot of reading. And the math, right now, math is all word problems. It is a lot of word problems. And so if they can't really read those word problems, then they're going to struggle. So me, I'm a literacy teacher. I was a literacy teacher for 8 years. I taught 5th grade reading. So for me, reading is huge. And I was in the classroom for 13 years, and literacy was always a big deal for us.
People got to realize that there's reading and then there's reading for context.
Correct.
And I mean, a child may be able to read, but they can't read for context, and so then they don't do well on the tests.
Correct. And that is a big concern for us.
Okay, so, again, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I know how successful you were at the elementary level. I'm not a fan, I'm still, like, I'm supporting our teachers, because I made a commitment to be here for you guys. And so if your teachers want to do this, remember, any program that we get, the rollout process is the key, and how we follow up and follow through. My biggest concern is, I know how great and successful you were at the elementary level, and I'm commending you. I know you're gonna do a great job at the junior high level, but my biggest thing at that next level is discipline. You can have any program you want to do. I know right now that there's a huge problem with the discipline in getting that, and I know it's getting better. I've heard great things. So I want to commend you on that. But rolling it out, because I'm not a fan of it, but because I just know that I didn't see much at that level before. So I'm like, why keep putting money and putting time into something that I didn't see much progress in? But again, y'all went and asked your staff. Y'all are owning it. Y'all are gonna do it. We're gonna request things to see what's going on with that process. But what is your plan on that level with trying to roll something out, and you got these sassy junior high kids who just, just gonna be themselves?
Yes.
And, I mean, what is your planning on that? Like, what are you planning on? I heard you say something about small groups. Are they gonna, like, how small are the groups? Like, you already have something in place for that?
Yes. So the way the small group works is that the teacher has the kiddos in the main class, and they're going to do a mini lesson in reading. So we'll talk mini reading first. They're going to do their patterns of power work with the kiddos, and then that's where they do the word work and vocabulary. And then they're going to do their mini lesson. So in their mini lesson, that should take about 15 minutes. And so after that 15 minutes is up, we're expecting them to go into small group. So right now we're working with the teachers on structuring their time more so that we can get to that small group process. And so we're working with them. And so there's not really fighting back from the teachers on it. They're just like, we don't know how. And so we're trying to get into those classrooms and coach. but we're also trying to do it in our collaborative teams. And we meet as an RLA department. We meet every Tuesday and Thursday morning from 7 to 8. And in that time, we sit and we talk about what they need. And so they've told me, we just need you to come in and show us how to do it. Can you model it? Can you show us? Can you work it? And so they've asked for that support. And math meets from 2:20 to 3:20 every Tuesday and Thursday. Same thing from them. Like, we want to do small group, but we have to teach this 30-minute lesson. It takes us a long time. Sorry, so we're seeing a lot of teachers standing and delivering, and they want to do these small groups. They just don't know how quite yet. And so, you know, I'm going in as a principal trying to do it, but my leadership team is new. And my math coach is new to Willis, and so she's coming in trying to support. And then we're pulling Sarah Ballou in as often as we can to come in and support, but there's only 3 of us, you know. I've got Miss Seuss, of course. She's a math instructional phenomenal person, so she can go in and help, but we still have quite a few teachers that we're trying to get in there and support and help and coach and grow, and it's just
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe in y'all. I think it's great that y'all are owning it, because I think you'll get more out of it when y'all own it, and so I appreciate the feedback, and I appreciate y'all being honest and saying what y'all need. I'm going to support whatever y'all want, because y'all are doing it.
we need help. We just want more help.
I got a quick question.
I think I'm gonna ask.
Yes.
This comes out of Esther.
Correct. Garrett?
Yes.
Is
It
that
does.
correct?
It's federal funds.
Yes,
It's
we
not
just
local
submitted
funds.
this year.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
I got another quick question for you. How's the rolling out of the 7 computer? How's it, the pre-COVID time in these classes? What are we implementing? Is that working well for you? And what are you doing? Because I hear people some church about all of a sudden they have homework again. What are we doing for we have tutoring before school. We have tutoring after school. What are we doing with that kind of stuff as well?
So we have not implemented tutoring before or after school, just simply because we need to look at the funding for it, because we have to be able to pay our teachers before and after school. So we haven't looked at that piece of it.
That's what I'm weighing right now.
Right. But I can tell you that tutoring before and after school, you have to be dependent on the parents to get them there and pick them up. You have to be dependent on the kids at the middle school level to actually go and not just go home. And that is a battle that they have fought before at Lynn Lucas. So with this, what we're hoping is we have a built-in focus time. Robin calls it Bobcat time. And we have a built-in 30 minutes that we are doing small group instruction or our remediation. And so that is how we are really honing in on a specific remedial group that needs some support. So we're doing that tutoring time sort of during the day for 30 minutes. Ask me the question again, because I think I missed the point of your question.
No, I'd asked it the last one, and we missed it. That's how we're gonna roll this out. I'm extremely excited about it, because I believe at the junior high level, that these kids not in class for an hour and 50 minutes to a shorter, I think we're gonna be able to keep their attention span. And my big concern is when I'm looking at the numbers the last 5 years, and I've done some research with this, this hasn't worked at the secondary level, and I'm not pointing no fingers at anybody. We're at C minus or D. This board's a D, the community's a D, we're all D's together, okay?
Right.
This hurts me like it does all of y'all, okay? And when I see us putting things in place, it ain't personal. I just wanna make sure we're putting our best foot forward.
Right,
Because
and
it's frustrating for me, because I don't see the results at the secondary level where I wanna see them, but I see these PLCs work in other places.
Yeah.
So I'm not dumb to that, but I'm just frustrated by it, because we haven't seen it yet.
I hear you, and when I talked to the teachers and we met and we did our needs assessment, they told me some of the things that had been done at Lynn Lucas prior. And so we're really embracing the PLC process, the professional learning community process, and it wasn't embraced in a way that really promoted or empowered our teachers before. So what we're doing is we're really trying to embrace the process in a new way. One of my science teachers, my coaches, Coach Elkin, I shouldn't say his name, one of my science teachers told me, you know, he had PTSD from collaboratives in the past. So what we're trying to do is come in and build them and make them stronger and really empower our teachers to be teacher leaders and to help each other and to really work together and not have it be a place of fear, but a place of love and a place of growth. We really believe if we can grow our teachers, then we will grow our students. And so that's what we want to do, is like truly grow our teachers to be stronger and better in their field and with their content knowledge and what they're doing in order to grow their students more. And we want to share all the wealth, share all the kids.
motion? Mr. Williams.
I move that the board accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the expenditure in relation to products and services provided by Solution Tree in excess of $50,000.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, a second by Coach Perry. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
You can ask me anything you want, Mr. Jones.
Okay. Ms. Gould,
Sir.
we're gonna give reports on this
Oh, yeah.
often.
Yes, sir.
Can we get that? Because I don't wanna ever not support our teachers, I love, and our staff, okay? The numbers are so frustrating when I'm looking at it, I worry we're doing something wrong, okay, in the past.
I think we were in the past.
I do
think
too.
we're.
I do too, and I'm gonna tell you your reputation of what you did at the elementary level, okay, is amazing. And that's a different animal over there. I love all the kids, but it's a different situation. And I understand it comes, but this is tough on me. So if we can get that data, we're gonna knock it out of the park, let's do it.
I think you're going to see the discipline data improve because kids are going to be
Well, we
engaged
need
in
it,
class. I think they're gonna want to be in class once they see this change.
I think the doctor will get it done.
We're going to get it
And we're
done.
gonna be here, and I'm here to support you any way we can. We gotta turn the campus around.
And I'll tell you, Mr. Jones,
Yes,
I've been doing this for a year or two.
yes, sir.
And the two middle schools and the high school, secondary schools here, I've been in those several times, school open, and the kids are in the classrooms. There's learning going on in those classrooms, there's teaching going on in those classrooms. And that's not always the way it is in middle schools.
Oh, I know that.
There's
Yes,
a
sir.
bunch of squirrels out there running the halls, and they have.
We don't-
The discipline problems for everybody.
Yes, and we don't normally encourage running in the hallways, but I will tell you, they run from me to get to their classrooms, and it's
They
exciting.
do, I've seen it. Of course, you're chasing them with that wheel thing.
My wheelie chair, and I'm chasing them down, and I'm telling them, y'all are going to hug me if you're late to class, and they do not want to hug me. So they go. Yeah, got my rolling desk, we're out in the hallway. We have 4 of them, so we're all out there, thanks to
There's
Mr.
good
Martin.
things going on at all of our secondary schools.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Dr.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Item G, discuss, consider approval of products and services by Lead Forward in excess of $50,000.
Oh.
Dr. Price.
Alrighty, guys, so thank y'all so much, and thank everyone else on my team, because we had a chance to do our needs assessment, looking at student data and teacher needs. My teachers, as well as my administrative team, and my coaches, my eye coaches, they see surveys all the time. But what I've gathered with surveys, you get your surveys, but you have to do something with the data. Even if you don't do something with everything that a teacher has recommended that he or she needs, it's important that you put that back in front of them. So that's why we have 2 priority needs that I would like to share with you in regards to utilizing instructional services from Lead Forward. So not Solution Tree, but Lead Forward. That first identified need was Tier 1 instruction, teaching it right the first time. Because we know we have Bobcat time, we know we have interventions, we know students have homework that they need to do. But whenever we teach it right the first time, we can get, the goal is to get at least 75 to 80% of those kiddos mastered that first time, instead of having to double back and do small groups consistently just to play catch up. The next prioritized need is data-driven culture. With Lead Forward, we can get something that's called field guides. These field guides will address content and process standards. When I taught biology for about 7 years. I was always the teacher who received the kids nobody wanted. I always had sheltered instruction classes, and I had the classes that were resourced. So these are your students who are not in co-teach classes, but they were just a level below the co-teach classes. Utilizing Lead Forward, I was able to get 98% passing rate for my biology exam. And that's with the kiddos, I had about 134 kids at that time. And I was able to utilize those field guides to guide that instruction. Now, the goals when driving these needs, because I hear you guys say you want to see the numbers. If you're gonna spend your money on something, you should be able to see where your money is going. The goals include closing learning gaps in all 4 core areas. math, science, social studies, and RLA. Because something our coaches are telling us, because once again, the needs assessment, we got the data. Some of the data said from social studies teachers, I feel that you focus on your bread and butter too much. Well, I have to eat that because yes, we do focus on math, we do focus on reading, but social studies, they want some love too. Lead Forward would provide 4 days of intensive coaching for those social studies teachers so they can feel love too. Address year-to-year growth from 5th to 8th grade. That's something that I have consistently seen from the data that we present here at board meetings. Well, what Lead Forward would do is help us focus on that quality questioning technique that is so important to get data from kids. So once those kids are answering at those high levels that Fosler and Moore shared with you guys, we can track that data. And Lead Forward coaches will show our teachers how to track their data. We have some amazing instructional coaches, but they're not able to sit with those teachers at all times. So any additional supports from Lead Forward would assist them. So once again, why Lead Forward? Balanced instruction, because we want to address the learning at high levels and also extend students' thinking. We also have a huge group of GT students that sometimes we forget about. Yes, we're intervening. And then whenever the GT kiddos for Bobcat time, okay, they can do enrichment activities, but we need to extend their thinking. Lead Forward will guide us with that as well. Intentional planning for both student and teacher growth. At Bravo Middle School, students track their data. Students track their data. That's why students are having homework assignments, because they have to go home, whatever they missed in class, they have to go home and study. Then they have to come back and give their report to their teachers and say, you know what, I'm gonna do this differently because I had a chance to see where I messed up at. Move instructional planning from CTs to action inside of classrooms. I cannot rave about my administrative team and my instructional leadership team enough. Like, there's so many forms they have that they keep up with just to make sure that we are doing what we're supposed to do on campus. So to have another entity come in and say, you know what, you can do this a little bit better, the coaches are gonna benefit from that as well. And the last thing, build confidence and competence in learning for students and teachers. With their one-to-one coaching sessions that's offered, not only to teachers, not only to my coaches, but I would like to extend those services to our leadership team. And so that's something that I ask our executive leaders whether or not we will have a chance to learn, because I'm a lifelong learner. Like, I want some, I'm hungry for it too. And so with that, guys, that's why we would love for you to provide us with the services for Lead Forward.
Mr. Williams.
May I?
Oh, sorry.
I need to clarify on the motion. It's in the book for the board members. It says Elevate K-12, but is it Elevate K-12?
No, ma'am.
It's Lead Forward.
It's Lead Forward.
So you would adjust the title, please.
Okay, do we have any questions for Dr. Price? No?
Change it to Lead Forward.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Williams.
Move that the board accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the expenditures in relation to products and services provided by Lead Forward in excess of $50,000.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, a second by Ms. Traylor. Is there any further discussion?
It's go time.
All those in favor?
And you know what?
Motion carries 7-0.
You told me that since last year, and I believe you. I do.
We're hungry, we're gonna bring it, it's go time, because we all have to be coached. That's something that Mr. Vagolente, I know I told your name, but I'm not on your copy. But he just shared that with us at our last TLC meeting. You cannot call yourself a principal, you cannot call yourself a leader if you're not willing to be stretched. Lead Forward is going to stretch me, and it's gonna stretch them. And as a result, all of our students and our teachers are gonna get better. So I'm just ready to bring you guys the data. That's it. So thank y'all so very much.
Thank you, Dr. Price.
Item H, discuss, consider reclassification of positions within the district.
Thank you, Mr. President, Board, Mr. Crowe, Ms. Carroll. We've talked with our district and campus leadership about certain positions that we have. You see a list of 6 different position groups. We're continually looking what we need to do, how we can do it better. With the enrollment, there's more programs, there's more things that we need to do. I tried to lay out some rationale under each of those for you, but we can talk briefly about those. The speech language pathology assistant position being reclassified to a true speech language pathologist. The special education director position being back to a 226-day work calendar like all the other directors. There's 2 transportation non-CDL positions that we were using to try to transport some students to Houston that needed to go to the facility there. We feel like we're in a position now that we have the CDL people that are with CDLs that can fill those. We can make that more efficient. During the summer, we had an assistant principal position that was reclassed to an associate. The secretary position that came with that was a grade level secretary, or what more that they're doing as an associate. We need to reclass that position to an associate principal secretary from a grade level. We do have 2 programs, our mentor program and our district outreach program, where the coordinators had been reclassified to part-time. With those being part-time, someone has to step up into those positions and fill some of what's going on with that. So we're looking at the pay grade on one of those. What makes those different? On the mentor program, we have one of the assistant position was at a completely different campus. They weren't together. They're at a different campus working that program, so that position was more facilitating, still going off of what the coordinator wanted or needed to do, but facilitating that on a different campus. So we also changed the name, looking to change the title to that one as well as the pay grade.
Yes, sir. I make the motion that we accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the reclassification of the positions listed above, excluding the district outreach liaison assistant from PG1 to PG3.
We have a motion by Mr. Jones, a second by Mr. Carson. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Item I, discuss and consider approval of adding additional personnel.
As you see, again, we continue to look at what we need, looking at numbers. You will see 2 teaching positions, 5th grade teacher at Lagway. Numbers are high. We're still watching a few other classes, but the 5th grade definitely. A teacher, an academic interventionist teacher at CC Hardy. That position will be paid out of title funds, not general funds. Again, as I mentioned, kind of happy that we're at a point where we can fill some bus driver positions. We do have the buses that we can take out of trip buses, whatever that may be, that we can use. That will help. Hopefully, we can redo some routes, add some different stops, add some different routes for our buses. We're getting to that position where we can do that. And then, of course, with the rapid growth, we are asking to add a district planning and construction manager with the position. Where that is at now, that is a lot for one position or one person to do with the construction, renovations, all the operational departments. This position will be just for future planning and construction, all the way from the construction process, acquisition of property, all the way through warranty as it's built.
Who does that person answer to?
Mr. Crowe and I are still
We're still working on that.
in discussions on
Okay.
that one.
Mr. Carson.
Make the motion that we accept the superintendent's recommendation to add the positions listed above.
We have a motion by Mr. Carson, a second by Ms. Traylor. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Item J, discuss, consider approval of Willis High School's air handler replacement installation project, Phase 2, Bond 2020.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, board members, Mr. Crowe, Ms. Rogers. I'll take you on a little journey for a second to tell you how we got to this point. In 2020, one of the identified infrastructure projects we had was to replace the air handling units at Willis High School. Last summer, we were fortunate to get half of that project accomplished. The proposal we're bringing you this evening is to finish the remainder of this project, which will be done next summer. One thing I do want to remind you of and thank you for is you gave us the ability to already have purchased all this equipment in February of this year. And in order for us to get to that point, you probably helped save us somewhere between $50,000 and $70,000 at least. So the proposal we're bringing you this evening is the installation part of the project. Basically, it's getting the people here to put the equipment we already own on the building so that we can ramp that up and get it accomplished. So we're asking your approval this evening to complete this project, to have your approval in the amount of $2,214,740,000 to be accomplished this summer.
Questions? I want to compliment, I know I've had so many questions, but y'all did a great job on the first phase. The air handlers y'all moved out of the gym area, they put them out on the roof. People don't realize what that did for maintenance, what that's gonna do for the floors, and also we saved, I think, closer to $100,000, but, I mean, buying them earlier, and that's what we're gonna do now with this metalwork and the duct modifications. If anybody hadn't been to the high school and you look at the new duct socks that are in the gyms, they really look nice. What that's done, and that was y'all's insight, that was a great job because it's quieter. You can get it down to 55 degrees in there now, I have no doubt. The maintenance, and every time they gotta go work in there and change filters, they gotta bring the scissor jack in there to get up there. We got these wood floors, so that was a great job. I want y'all to know, so I'd like to make this a good.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Make the motion. I move the board accept the superintendent's recommendation to expend $2,214,740 for the 2020 bond issue funds for the Phase 2 installation of the air handlers at Willis High School.
We have a motion by Mr. Jones, a second by Mr. Carson. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, a few more things. We're about $4 or $5 million still under on that whole project. Is that correct?
You are correct.
All right, let's keep that up.
All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, board.
All right, board
Great.
member comments.
Thank y'all so much. Great job.
Okay, say something right quick. Those three principals who came and spoke tonight, and I appreciate your preparation because y'all were asked to do that at what, about 11 today?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. If it was up to me and we had 3 more minutes, we'd be watching Jerry Maguire and I'd be up here hollering, show me the money. Because at the end of the day, this is the first time in the 6 years I've been on the board where we've asked y'all to tell us what you wanted to do, and you're gonna be held accountable. So we've lacked some accountability, and so you picked what you wanna use, we're gonna stand behind you, we support you, and we're gonna give you everything that you need to be great. And so, but we expect you to be great. So the expectation is there. And so if you need something else from us, we expect you to come to us. We don't wanna get to next May and be unhappy with what we purchased, because I'm pretty tight. We call it cheap, but, so that's it. I appreciate the job that y'all did. I appreciate it.
Next meeting, Wednesday, October 18th. Like motion to adjourn.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Traylor. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. The meeting is adjourned.